Tomorrow on The Social, get out of the doghouse with the products you need to tackle the messes your furry friends leave behind.
Welcome back. No one really tells you what it's like having kids, from long, thankless nights to mommy guilt and everything in between. It's really not always baby bliss.
It's not? No, it's not. Our next guest is here to debunk child-rearing myths with the truth about parenthood. Please welcome parenting expert Samantha Kemp-Jackson.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for being here. You know what I've noticed over the last couple of decades, probably 15 to 20 years or so, there has been a glamorization of parenthood, motherhood, pregnancy, which is good. The upside is that women who are pregnant and have kids don't have to hide anymore. The downside, though, is that a lot of people are feeling like celebrities and social media influencers who glamorize these lives aren't telling it the way it is, and it makes them feel less than. Can you talk about this? Why aren't women leveling with each other?
Well, I think that we have so much pressure on us to be the perfect parent, the perfect mom. And the thing is that, you know, social media, I love it, I'm on it all the time, but it's making it harder for all of us. We think we have to be perfect. We think we have to look great. We think we need to walk out of the, you know, maternity ward in a bikini, and that's not gonna happen. I think there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of, you know, lack of self-confidence as parents because of social media. So I think that we need to take the pressure off of women. We need to be realistic and maybe post those photos that you're not looking perfect, because most of us aren't, and it's not realistic what's out there right now with celebrities.
And Sam, you know what you're talking about, because you are a mom of a 33-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, 2 twins that are 9 years old, your boys. You had your first daughter at 19 years old. So what was the biggest surprise as a mom, a first-time mom for you?
I'd have to say, Marcy, I really realized how much you have to make sacrifices as a parent. Your life changes. It does change 100%, and you sacrifice a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunity costs that come about because you are a parent and you have to put your child first or your children first. So maybe you won't travel as much as you planned. Maybe you won't have the money that you thought that you would have. But it's a short-term thing, because your kids will grow up, and later on you will have those opportunities to recoup what you might have missed when you first had your children.
Well, let's talk right about at the beginning, which is, I feel like something people talk about a lot, which was childbirth. And back in the day, a lot of women would be like, oh, it's so beautiful, you forget the pain. And that was not very helpful. So the pendulum has swung so far back where women love to tell their horror stories of childbirth, right? I found it very upsetting, so much so that I actually sought out, I actively was like, I want to have a pleasure-filled birth. I took hypnotherapy, and while the whole thing wasn't pleasurable start to finish, it really was quite rewarding. So why do you think that people aren't talking at all now about sort of like a balanced approach to childbirth?
That's a really good question. I think that there's this one-upmanship with parenthood, specifically motherhood. You know, you hear somebody say, wow, I was in labor for, 20 hours. Well, I was in labor for 24 hours.
Right.
You know, and I think that a lot of that, again, comes back to the social media. We're sharing everything. Nothing is personal anymore, or our sense of privacy is a lot less than it used to be. And I think that we have this pressure, and I think that society puts pressure on women and mothers and pits them against each other.
I agree.
And I think that instead of pitting being pitted against each other, maybe we should all try a little bit more kindness, a little bit more support. And hey, if you had a great birth, that's great. And if you had a terrible birth, that's okay. And I hope, are you okay? You know, try a little bit of kindness as opposed to, well, I don't care what happened to you. This is what happened to me.
Well, in that, we were talking about work earlier, and there is this saying, fake it till you make it. And you're saying that this could apply to motherhood as well. But I thought we're trying to be real. What do you mean be fake? Fake it till you make it. What does that mean?
Well, it means that there are times, Melissa, when you wake up and you think, I don't want to be a parent today. Come on, who doesn't feel like that, right? You don't want to be a parent. There's some days I wake up and I think, I don't want to wake up and make breakfast for my kids. So I say to them, you know what? If you want to have a chocolate bar and you want to have chips this morning with pop, fine. And you know what? That's okay once in a while. And also when you don't know what you're talking about with your kids, because a lot of times people say, oh, you know what? The best parenting advice. There is no best parenting advice because every child is different. And therefore, you have to treat each child independently and individually. So what will work for one child will not work for another. And you know, if it's not working one way, then you do fake it until you make it.
And that is so true, because it's such a journey, right? It's taken me a lot of time to really listen to my kids thoroughly. And I say this because Blaze was playing the piano, and she was good at it, and she wanted to quit. And I didn't want her to because I quit when I was a kid, and I wanted her to see it through. She quit. I finally agreed to it. She started playing the saxophone. She made it into the band at her school. She now plays the sax. There's really something to it, though, right? About understanding that just because we're older doesn't mean we're wiser. And there is something about listening to our kids and what they're passionate about, right?
Absolutely. And I have to say, you know what? I think it's a biological imperative that we want to live through our children. That's what it's all about, being a parent, being a mom, being a dad. And you can temper that, though, with realizing that your children are individuals. And what you may have wanted for your child, you might have to put that up in a balloon and let it go and say, okay, I wanted you to be a virtuoso piano player, but hey, you're rocking it like, you know, Coltrane, and that's okay, right? And you have to listen to your children, give them what they need, give them the support they need, and they will make you proud if they know that you are supporting them.
Mm-hmm. Here's an expression I've heard a lot from moms and dads. They say, oh, my son or daughter is my best friend. That was definitely not my experience growing up. My mother was very clear. I am not your friend, child. I am your mother. What do you think about parents wanting to be the best friends of their kids?
All I have to say is I come from a Caribbean background. My parents are Jamaican, and we are not friends with our kids. And we're not friends with our kids. You know, it doesn't mean that you don't love your child more than anything. It doesn't mean that you're not going to guide your child or you're going to be there to talk with your child. But at the end of the day, your role as a parent is to give them the best advice possible and to have a little bit of distance and boundary there so that they not only listen to you, but respect you. Because when you lose respect and your children do not respect you, it's really hard to get that back. And it's hard to get them to do what you think is the best thing.
Truth. I shared on the show not too long ago that when I was about 8 months pregnant, I had a full-blown meltdown, and I didn't know if it was hormones. What I did know is what I felt was true, which is I actually was saying, looking at my husband and actually mourning the impending loss of our relationship as a twosome because we were getting ready to welcome my daughter, Marquesa. And at the time, I was like, why? I shouldn't feel guilty about this, but there really is something to be said about mourning what you will be losing. What do you say to parents or parents-to-be about navigating that major transition in their little family?
That's a great question, Melissa, and I have to say that it's okay to mourn the loss of what was, and it's okay as well to anticipate what's going to be. There's always going to be a change in life. Life is all about changes and journeys and new things happening, but a change doesn't necessarily mean something negative or bad. Change could be good. Change could be something even better than what you had before. So I think it's really realizing that things are going to be different, accepting the changes coming, and making provisions accordingly. So maybe you had all the time in the world before you had kids, then you can say to your partner, you know, we're going to have a baby. Let's plan now that we're going to have a date night once a month so that we know that we have 3 or 4 hours alone that we can talk to each other and spend time together, et cetera, et cetera. Change does not necessarily mean that it's bad. It could be even better than before.
Sam, thank you so much for getting real about parenthood. More of us should be having these conversations. Well, those of you who have kids. Like, I'll be over here enjoying my free time. We will be back after the break.
The many layers of March Cynthia Live. There's only one Elaine movie.
Yes, Alex.
We're not afraid to get personal.
Now I'm sharing my entire life. I love this show because it's real talk.
Get fired up.
Stop!
And get real.
My eyelashes are falling off.
Plus, moments with the hottest celebs you won't find anywhere else.
Okay, he's hot.
We're taking daytime to new heights. Join us on The Social.